My Unarmed Monk build is absolutely shredding the endgame. Doesn't matter if it's tier 15 maps, Abyssal Depths, Citadels, or even Pinnacle Bosses. In this video, I'll explain everything you need to know about the endgame version of this build. And I'll also answer some of the most frequently asked questions, like how does Hollow Palm scale? How do I generate charges? Should I go full evasion or hybrid? All of that and more will be covered in this video, so make sure that you stay until the end. If you have any questions, then comment down below and I'll make sure to answer. Okay, so first thing I want to get out of the way is that this is not a leveling guide, it's an endgame guide. Therefore, if you're still leveling your monk, go watch this video first and then come back. You'll find the link to that video in the description below. Now, assuming that you've watched and followed my leveling guide, I won't be explaining all the abilities in detail again. I will only explain the ones that are unique to the endgame. And to start things off, I have two variations for the abilities and support gems, my current setup and my early endgame setup. You can follow either one depending on where you are and what you can afford. Early endgame, we keep things pretty simple as we follow something similar to our leveling build. Here, you simply need to find a few lesser jeweler's orbs and hit almost every single ability with them, so we can add 3 support gems on all of them apart from Combat Frenzy. Early on, Ice Strike will have rapid attacks rank 2 for the speed, Ice Bite for the cold damage, and Elemental Armament rank 2 for the extra elemental damage. As our second primary ability for clearing, Shattering Palm will have Magnified Area to increase the area of effect, Elemental Armament for the damage, and Close Combat for extra damage up close. You can start off with rank 1 on all of these, but if you can upgrade them to rank 2, then even better. Our third most important ability is Charge Staff, and here we will add Close Combat rank 1, Elemental Armament rank 2, and Prolonged Duration rank 2 as it significantly increases its duration. Our boss killing ability is Tempest Bell, so here we're adding Close Combat again, but this time rank 2 for that extra damage, Concentrated Area for the extra damage nearby, and Overabundance so we can add a second bell. And in the early endgame, we only have 3 auras: Combat Frenzy, Herald of Ice, and Herald of Thunder. Combat Frenzy only needs 1 support gem, and that's Charge Profusion, so we can be able to generate more charges. Ideally, you can go for rank 2 as early as possible. Herald of Ice needs Elemental Armament rank 2, Magnified Area rank 1, and Cold Attunement for that extra cold damage. And lastly, Herald of Thunder needs Overreach for that extra area of effect, Elemental Armament rank 2, and Elemental Focus for the extra elemental damage. This ability setup got me from tier 1 maps all the way to tier 10 without any issues. Of course, the gear and the passive tree plays a huge role into that as well, but the majority of the support gems that we already have from the early endgame setup will also be used in my current setup. So here's what I currently play with that completes T15 maps and Pinnacle Bosses without issues. Ice Strike now has a full link and uses Close Combat rank 2, Elemental Armament rank 2, Concentrated Area, and we have 2 new additions: Rage rank 3 and Crescendo rank 2. The reason I chose Rage rank 3 is because this is a win-win scenario, as it says that we gain Rage on melee hits, which means our damage increases the more Rage we stack, but we also gain 15% attack speed while we're not at full Rage. It's important that this gem is at rank 3, as rank 2 does not provide the second effect. Crescendo rank 2 is also a really interesting gem, and once again it needs to be that specific rank. Our final strike can be performed twice, which means that it increases our damage with Ice Strike, but also provides us with 15% attack speed on the remaining hits. The reason why we replace rapid attacks on Ice Strike is because our gear now provides us with enough evasion to scale our attack speed through Hollow Palm technique, plus the addition of Crescendo and Rage make it a lot faster than before. On Shattering Palm, I currently have 4 support gems: Rapid Attacks rank 2 so we can dash faster, Elemental Armament rank 2 for the damage, Magnified Area rank 2, and Close Combat rank 2. If you can add a 5th gem, then you can choose between Ice Bite for more damage, Mana Leech for mana management, or even Ancestral Call, which empowers it further. Charge Staff uses Close Combat rank 2, Elemental Armament rank 2, Lightning Attunement for the extra lightning damage, and Prolonged Duration rank 2 of course. If you can add a 5th gem, then you can choose between Innervate or Calling Strike to empower it further, or even Mana Leech in case you still have issues there. On our Tempest Bell, we have Close Combat rank 2, Concentrated Area for the extra damage nearby, Overabundance, but now it's at rank 2 for the 10% difference, and Heft for the extra damage. If you can add a 5th gem, then you can go for Heavy Swing for even more damage, or you can add Rage rank 3 on the bell instead of Ice Strike and replace Rage to something else on Ice Strike. Combat Frenzy now has 2 support gems, Charge Profusion rank 2 and Herbalism rank 1 for that extra life flask increase. Note that Herbalism is not mandatory and should only be added after you've taken all necessary auras. Regarding our 2 Herald, support gems here can vary based on what you want. I've experimented with multiple different techs, and the one I'm currently using is Shock, Elemental Armament rank 2, Lightning Attunement, and Shock Conduction on Herald of Ice, which allows it to shock further, which helps with charge generation and increases our damage due to the shock factor. And I have Overreach, Elemental Armament rank 2, Elemental Focus, and Lightning Mastery on Herald of Thunder. If you can add a 5th gem to the 2 Heralds, I would go with either Deadly Herald or Overreach on Herald of Ice, and either Concentrated Area or Cold Attunement on Herald of Thunder. These gems might change in the near future as I keep experimenting with them. We now have 2 new auras, Wind Dancer and Ghost Dance for extra evasion. On Wind Dancer, you can go for Blind rank 2 for the extra CC, Cooldown Recovery rank 2 so you can lower its cooldown when it ticks, and Magnified Area rank 2 to increase the knockback area. On Ghost Dance, you can go for Compressed Duration rank 2 so you can trigger faster, and Cannibalism for extra health. However, just like Herbalism, this gem should only be taken if you have the spare spirit after you got all of your auras. Lastly, we have Crackling Palm, which is an automatic ability and comes from the unique gloves called Thunderfist. If you don't have these gloves, then don't worry about this ability, but if you do have them, then we need to add a few supports. We're going to talk more about Thunderfist later, but Crackling Palm is really good for Unarmed. When you use Unarmed attacks, this ability automatically hits enemies with lightning bolts, dealing massive lightning damage, which significantly helps with our clearing ability as well as some extra damage on bosses. The support gems we want here are things like Calling Strike rank 2 for that execute ability on rares and bosses, Blind rank 2 for more CC, adding to the Blind on Herald. The reason we are going for this is because we have some crazy crit nodes for Blind on our tree that we're going to discuss later on. And lastly, we can go for Close Combat rank 2 for the extra 30% damage. Okay, so now that the gems are done, let's look at what abilities you should quality on and level up first. Since Hollow Palm Technique scales with skill gem level, that means that we need our damaging abilities leveled up first. So Ice Strike, Charge Staff, Shattering Palm, and Tempest Bell in that order. Then you can focus on all the auras starting with Herald of Ice, Herald of Thunder, Wind Dancer, Combat Frenzy, and Ghost Dance. You should also max quality them all in the same or similar order. The gameplay in rotation is pretty straightforward as we don't really have many abilities to use as more than half of our kit is automatic. For AoE, we literally spam 2 abilities, Shattering Palm and Ice Strike. To engage to new packs and new monsters, you always want to use the Shattering Palm first, then Ice Strike, as this will create a bigger impact. Once you get your first charges, immediately use Charge Staff and continue spamming the same thing. You can occasionally place a Tempest Bell if you're fighting multiple rares at once, or a ritual. On bosses, things are very similar, but with slightly different priorities. You can engage the boss with Shattering Palm and then spam Ice Strike. Just like before, use Charge Staff as soon as you can, and then immediately place down your first bell. Then spam Ice Strike on it, and when it disappears, place your second bell and rinse and repeat. In case you don't generate any charges in the beginning of the fight, make sure that you use the bell to deal more damage even if you don't have Charge Staff on. Now, moving on to the Ascendancy and the passive tree. With my first 4 points, I went for I Am the Blizzard for the extra cold damage and Sunder my enemies to ignore enemy resistances. With points 5 and 6, I went to Lead Me Through Grace for the extra spirit. When you decide to go for Lead Me Through Grace will definitely depend on how good your body armor is. If you just got into the endgame and your body armor is pretty bad, then it's better to wait a little bit before getting this node. With my last 2 points, which is 7 and 8, I'm going to switch between 2 nodes. nodes. I'm the Thunder for mapping and Unbound Avatar for Pinnacle Bosses. When you get Unbound Avatar, you can go for Prolonged Duration rank 2 and Cooldown Recovery rank 2 as the support gems. Regarding the passive tree, there are a few really good nodes that help this build outside of the obvious ones like Hollow Palm Technique, Resonance, and our defensive nodes like Bestial Skin and Enhanced Reflexes. As you can see, I did my best to have a good balance between everything that we might need. Attack damage and attack speed nodes like Concussive Attack, Blinding Strike, Agile Succession, Rapid Strike, as well as Killer Instinct and Tenfold Attacks. I also got some extra damage and utility nodes such as Step Like Mist, Coming Calamity, Thin Ice, and Heavy Frost, as well as multiple different crit clusters. To enhance our defense even more, I got Subterfuge Mask and Spectral Ward, but those two depend on what gear you have. For example, with Spectral Ward, you need to have a high evasion body armor. Even if it's hybrid, it's still good. And for Subterfuge Mask, you want to have a helmet with as much energy shield as possible. Personally, I prefer going full ES on the helmet. And last but not least, we also have Walker of the Wilds, which is an excellent node for mana sustainability. Although getting a physical mana leeching node on a ring is pretty mandatory if you don't want to invest more passive points on mana nodes. Personally, my next 4 points will be going for Distracted Target, which is the tech I told you about with Blind, and the reason we have 2 blind gems on our abilities. And just to let you guys know, there are multiple other paths and variations that we can talk about all day, such as going for Train Deflection for defense, or getting the triple elemental cluster with Trinity, or even investing in charge generation with things like Lust for Power and Overflowing Power. All of these variations are viable choices if you want to try them out. However, bear in mind that you might need to switch around your passive tree and potentially even your abilities, gems, stuff like that, as these variations will require you to invest in other things. Now, when it comes down to jewels, we have loads of options. You can look for mods like increased elemental damage, increased attack damage, critical hit chance, critical damage bonus, increased evasion, increased maximum energy shield. All of these mods actually help us out. If you can craft them, buy them, anything that you could do, the more of these mods that you can get in one jewel, the better it's going to be. If you manage to find or craft a time-lost jewel, you can go for similar mods as the ones that we just mentioned and place it on top of the crit cluster right here. Next, we gotta talk about the gear and what modifiers you want to look for. Most important things you want to focus on, no matter if you're in the early stages of the endgame or the late stages, will be evasion, energy shield, and resistances. Doesn't matter what happens, you definitely need to be capped with over 75% on all 3 resistances and at least 25 to 35% on chaos if possible. We also need to stack as much evasion as we possibly can. Not only is it one of our prime defenses, but our damage scales with it too. Due to the recent nerf on evasion though, we need to stack a lot more of it to make it viable, and we also need a good amount of energy shield so we don't feel like a glass cannon build. Energy shield will provide us with that extra layer of defense and increase our damage due to Hollow Palm Technique. On our rings, we want to look for flat damage of any kind: physical, cold, lightning, or even fire. The flat fire mod, by the way, is really good too because it provides us with the potential of igniting our Tempest Bell, which will significantly increase its damage. Another mod you want to look for, as I mentioned before, is the physical mana leeching on one of your rings. In the future, we might not need it, but early on, we definitely do. And remember that we said that Unarmed scales with skill levels? Well, we want to get as many plus levels to melee skills as we can, and usually these are found on Amulets and Gloves. Lastly, let's rapid fire through some of your most frequently asked questions. What anointment should I add to my amulet? Here we have multiple different options. You can go for Storm Charged or Overwhelming Strike, however these are a little bit more of an expensive options. A good alternative could be Critical Exploit. Should I go for the new modifier that gains deflection rating on evasion? Well, it's definitely worth it at the later stages of the endgame when you have a lot of evasion. However, don't force it and don't pay more for it. Should I focus on both evasion and energy shield as hybrids on all of my gear? My personal choice would be hybrid body armor, pure energy shield on the helmet, and pure evasion on boots and gloves. However, get whatever you can afford. How good are the Thunderfist Unique Gloves? At the moment, they are our best in slot item. They provide us with the crackling palm ability that we saw before, as well as some extra crit chance. If you cannot afford to buy them, then look for gloves with flat damage and melee skills. What are the best runes to use on my gear? The best runes will always be what you need the most. If you haven't capped your resistances, then use runes to cap them. Otherwise, use greater iron runes. How do I gain charges? Well, Combat Frenzy needs to be active. You need to have resonance on the tree, and you need to either pin, electrocute, or freeze the enemies. If you do all of these three things, you will be able to gain charges. Does Bestial Skin increase the damage of Unarmed? Unfortunately, no. Even though it increases the body armor evasion by 100%, Unarmed only scales by the local modifiers of gear. However, Bestial Skin is a much needed node for defense. How does Unarmed Damage scale? Based on the node Hollow Palm technique, we scale in multiple ways. The higher the levels of our skills are, the more damage we do. The higher our evasion on our gear is, the higher attack speed we have. And the more energy shield we have on our gear, the more crit we get. Also, Unarmed has a 5% crit chance as base. And lastly, what permanent story rewards should I go for? Personally, I went for the charm charges gained in Act 2, Stun Threshold in Act 3, Life Recovery in Act 4, +5 on all 3 resistances in Act 4, and Global Defenses from the 7 Pillars in Interlude 2. And that should cover everything about this build. I will provide you guys with an updated guide of this exact build in the near future as I finalize and finish up the entirety of the endgame. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if this guide helped you out. And if you have any questions, comment down below or join me live here on YouTube or over on Twitch at twitch.tv/scorpius_ent. Thank you very much for watching. I'm gonna see you guys on the next one. Peace.